In this episode, we're joined by David Perell, who is a writer that interviews world-class authors and billionaires like Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, and many more, and he's a fascinating student of culture that sees things that no one else does. And we talked about the announcement of physical products from OpenAI, where society and culture is shifting to so we can come out on top, why you don't want to optimize anything to 100%, the mindset that makes billionaires limitless, and so much more. So put on your seatbelts, let's get into it. I'm curious what you thought of this. Big announcement. Sam Altman is launching new products to use AI. You've seen this, right?
Yeah.
What did you think? First of all, what did you think of the whole video itself? I think it's executed well, but it's also very easy to make fun of. I can already see the memes popping up and like how it's being edited.
Sam is a rare vision.
Well, I've only watched the first few minutes.
Oh, really? They didn't keep your attention?
But his curiosity, his humility.
He's got a great voice, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Johnny is the deepest thinker.
I saw this really funny comment. TLDR, this guy's so badass. No, you're more badass. Well, you've done more badass stuff. Yeah, but the stuff you're doing now is going to be the baddest ever. We should team up. Lo, we did.
Yeah, you know, my only thought on this is I just watched an interview that Johnny Ive did with Patrick Collison. And it's the first interview that I've watched 3 times in a row in some time. So I watched it, then I rewatched it, then I sent it to my mom, and then I rewatched it, and then my mom and I talked about it.
Wow.
And
We are sitting at the beginning of what
Johnny Ive has a very unique mind. So I think the question here is, are you getting Jordan to the Washington Wizards, or are you getting a really top tier person who's been kind of out of the game for a while, who now is going to OpenAI? And what's cool about Johnny Ive is what's rare is usually in a founder-driven company, the founder is the only person inside the company who what they say goes. And that's why founder-run companies are really important, is you don't need to justify anything. What's interesting about this hire is you have a second person inside the company who has that sort of authoritative voice. Like there's a gravitas around Johnny Ive. And what remains to be seen is, can he take that gravitas and build something that's unique and have an amazing second chapter, or is this Jordan going to the Wizards? I don't know.
Yeah, like usually it would be like the first hire, but it seems like they really like equals.
Right, exactly. Yes, that's a good point.
I don't know, but are they starting a company? Because look at this. What is
Hilarious.
what this?
Let's scroll down. Let's read it.
But look at the picture. What is something just?
Dude, it's giving very Apple.
Yeah, I just think about the behind the scenes of this photo. Like, hey, lean in a little bit with him. Like,
Yeah.
feel as if he's your son. He's your, like, I don't know. I feel like they're starting this crazy AI company. Like technology is taking over now. So just as a background, so Johnny Ive was chief design officer at Apple.
I mean, even
And-
more than that, there's a video of him speaking at Steve Jobs' funeral. And Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive were really close. So no one at Apple could tell Johnny Ive what to do, which is very unique. And there's this beautiful video of Johnny Ive at Steve Jobs' funeral. And he's talking about Johnny Ive, or Johnny Ive's talking about Steve Jobs. And he says that what Steve Jobs knew more than anything is that great ideas are fragile. They're almost like a little bird. And you can't, if you hit them too much, if you put them they're very delicate. If you hit them too much, the whole thing could die and fizzle away. And I think that what Johnny really understands is a kind of creative process. And also that's why I'm a little reticent to make fun of the whole thing, because I think that early, these ideas are really nascent. And what I like about this is there's clearly something dark and sinister about our current technological age. You know, I read a tweet the other night that said, we're so addicted to our phones that watching a movie feels productive now, which I think totally hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And like, I want to get out of this age so fast that like, I'm really excited about this because finally we have someone who has enough gravitas about them that they can really make some big waves.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I find it exciting too. To me, it seems like they want to seem as human and warm as possible because AI has this really bad brand about it where AI is going to disconnect all of us and it's going to be so dystopian. I think the answer is probably going to be both. Same thing with the internet, right? It's like the internet launched so many horrible things and so many amazing things.
Yeah, if I were to put words to what you're saying, the mask is always hiding the shadow. So what you're saying here is the mask is trying to show a kind of humanity. The mask, if you invert the mask, you get the shadow. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is, I don't like the shadow. I'm worried about the shadow.
Yeah, what would you say the shadow is?
I mean,
what do you see as the shadow?
It's very polished. It's a lot of people saying this looks like a forced humanity type thing. And what I hear you saying is AI is this super powerful, some people would say anti-human technology. So what the marketing does is it shows exactly the opposite of that.
Yeah. I think they are pushing a brand of marketing, but I think it's the same as it's always been, which is whatever the internet and current technology did to humanity, AI is just going to amplify that even more. So if you're using technology to connect, to create things, it's going to enable you to do that even more. If you're brain rotting on TikTok, this is going to be to the max, like straight to the dome.
But do you guys see it as a thing where maybe even Johnny could be like kind of like a mentor? He could see like a young Steve Jobs in him.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because think about it, it looks kind of like that. It's like I'm taking you under my wing in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think it's beautiful. I think they actually did a really good job with the video. Like I got excited about it.
Wait, but hold on. Let's just stop here. The thing is, there are certain ways that technology is deterministic. There are certain ways that it isn't deterministic. And I've thought about this for a long time. Like if Steve Jobs was still alive today, I have fairly high conviction that the phones that we have in our pocket wouldn't be nearly as predatory to our attention as they've become.
Yeah.
And AI, this new age, doesn't need to be like that. And what I mean is, when you go on ChatGPT right now, one thing that's really nice is there's not things that are like hounding your attention. There's no fight video that you see in the Twitter feed. There's no like some hot girl in a bikini that's like basically porn that you see on Instagram that is like completely normalized now. Every single platform has its own version of that. And all this is to say that what's happened is we've very much lived in a push culture where content is pushed out to us, and there are these algorithmic feeds that give us things without our control that we then see. We say, oh my goodness, we're very reactive. And what I hope is that AI doesn't have that same sort of culture that just sends us this stuff that really degrades our brain. And right now, AI is in a pull environment where you have to ask AI what to do, which is really nice because when I use ChatGPT, I feel like it's better for my state of mind and brain consciousness than using social media. And all this is to say, my hope is that Johnny Ive can look at this. And in the interview, Patrick Carlson asks him, how do you feel about some of the second order effects of the technology that you've invented? And he responds and he says, there is no question for me in the world that is more alive right now. And all this is to say that
Wow.
It does give me some hope
Yeah.
that technology doesn't need to be a weapon that is constantly attacking our minds.
So do you feel like Sam Altman's intentions are pure when it comes to building this to where it needs to go?
I don't know.
I wouldn't say,
don't know.
from my gut is telling me it's not pure, but he's aware of the
repercussions?
He's aware that like this is a really big deal and he holds a lot of responsibility. I think he is aware of it. And I think the general population is like, oh, of course he's evil. He's a billionaire, just like in all the movies that I watch. They're always the bad guys. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. It always is. And it seems like now that you're speaking into it, Johnny Ive, I think, yeah, like I could totally see that. If Steve Jobs trusted him so much Steve Jobs' mission or vision for Apple is to create products that accelerate humanity. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the iPhone, like it's the #1 distraction for people, right? But that was all after he was dead. I mean, he launched the iPhone beforehand, but like it really got out of hand with social media. It really is like the social media companies, right?
You said something really interesting also about being predatory. Do you see AI ever falling into a place? And if so, how do you see AI kind of becoming predatory in that sense?
Well, AI is predatory in a very innocuous way. So this is what we saw with 4.0. Remember a few weeks ago, they launched 4.0, the new model, and then they said, oh, we need to take this back because it was being sycophantic. It was just telling us what we wanted to hear.
Yeah.
That's the way that AI is predatory, is it can manipulate you into anything. And also it can just tell you things that you want to hear. And actually, you know, if you talk to people and you kind of read between the lines what they're saying, you're like, hey, what do you like about using AI? They're like, oh, it just kind of tells me what I want to hear all the time. And I've heard that from multiple people. That's how I think it's predatory, that it gives us an illusion. It can give us an illusion of wisdom and knowledge and truth that isn't actually there.
Yeah, it's not disagreeable enough.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Like, for example, friend of mine, he uses AI as a therapist. It's like, how should I think about this? And I've already known him as someone who talks a lot about trauma and his trauma, and like, and I can just imagine like him talking to his AI and the AI being like, yeah, you have real trauma. It's really, you know. So we talked about that in the last episode with Marcus Weller. Yeah. I
do love that they're drinking espressos. That's bullish.
Yeah.
Like, I'm basically bullish on anyone who just drinks espresso and like also knows where to get a good espresso, drink the espresso. That's good. Also, Europeans, they have good taste.
Thank you.
That's the real point of this whole thing.
I'm not one of the.
What are you, German, Austrian?
German.
German.
Yeah.
South Germany.
No.
No.
Not the. I'm not the beautiful, happy, like beautiful mountains and stuff. German. I'm the like industrial from the west, flat land.
Where are you from?
Never seen the sun. It's like a small town in the west.
Okay.
Closest city would be like Cologne or Düsseldorf.
Cool.
Yeah. So for context, for anyone who's listening for the last 15 minutes and doesn't know what we're talking about, so they are talking about launching physical products that, basically allow you to interface with AI.
And so I/O is merging with OpenAI.
Formed with the mission of figuring out how to create a family of devices that would let people use AI to create all sorts of wonderful things.
The first one
Family of
we've
AI
been working
products.
on, I think, has just completely captured our imagination.
You know, Johnny called one day and said, this is the best work our team has ever done.
Yeah.
I mean, Johnny did the iPhone. Johnny did the MacBook Pro. I mean, these are like the defining ways people use technology. It's hard to beat those things. Those are really wonderful.
Johnny recently gave me one of the prototypes of the device.
I find him really wholesome. I like his voice, and he just seems very excited about it. I don't think he's acting here, because that would be really difficult to do. Like anytime we've seen Mark Zuckerberg or anyone else acting, or Elon, like it just doesn't. They just can't do it.
They're media trained.
It's very polished.
Yeah, 100%.
This is Do you think this is acted or genuine? Just like somebody's asking them and they're just talking about.
Well, I
it?
think out of all the founders, I think he's the most social. 100%.
No, but do you think this interaction is scripted and they're acting, or is it like in the moment they're just like there's someone behind the camera just asking them like, hey, talk more about this, and then they're just like having a conversation?
I think, it looks like a pretty genuine conversation. But I also feel like if you look at both and how they're showing up, you can obviously tell that Johnny has a lot more frame. It's kind of like Sam is more excited about having Johnny there than Johnny. I mean, they're both excited, but you can just tell. Like the way he's talking, Johnny's very like grounded. He's very centered. The way he's talking, the way he's explaining things. It's just like little small mannerisms. I don't know. That's what I see. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, no, I don't think about that here, but I know you're really obsessed with that topic.
I listen. I love human behavior, so this is the stuff that really excites me.
So here they bring up a really good point about the iPhone.
Magic intelligence in the cloud. If I wanted to ask ChatGPT something right now about something we had talked about earlier, think about what would happen. I would like reach down, I would get out my laptop, I'd open it up, I'd launch a web browser, I'd start typing, and I'd have to like explain that thing, and I would hit enter, and I would wait, and I would get a response. And that is at the limit of what the current tool of a laptop can do. But I think this technology deserves something much better.
Dude, he's creating Jarvis. They're creating Jarvis from Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, you just ask it, because I mean, it sounds to me like you're just gonna ask the laptop, "Hey, what's going on?"
That'd be so funny if they come up with the shittiest product. Like, yeah, you're gonna have to wear a metal suit all day, and if you live in Texas, well, get ready to sweat. But you know, here's some electrolytes that we'll give you as well in case you're losing a bunch of salt. But what do you think the product's gonna be? What are your predictions?
I think that the product will be based on voice and ambient capture. I think that that's what's going to happen. AI is going to kind of always be listening to what's going on. It's going to constantly be doing things. It's going to get a sense of our general habits. And I just think voice input, text output is the way to go. You can easily, the fact that typing is the dominant way that we interact with our phones is crazy. It's crazy. It's so inconvenient and unenjoyable to just tap on your phone just constantly. I mean, usually what I do is I wake up in the mornings and I will walk the trail in Austin and I'll go through texts and emails and I walk and I use my voice and it's delightful. It's great. Like even this morning, I use ChatGPT most days to basically help me make a daily plan. I say, hey, here's how I'm feeling. I'm anxious. I'm excited. I'm nervous, whatever it is. Make a to-do list. Help me map out my day. Yeah. And all that's through voice. I never really type into ChatGPT. But then for consuming, it'll be text coming back. Yeah. And then the question is, do we have screens in the same way? And I don't know the answer.
It's funny that you say the voice thing because it's easier to voice, but getting a voice back is like, it's like, you know, that one person that is busier is the one sending the voice messages and you don't want to send them a voice message back. Like if I'm, you know, talking to someone that's like hard to reach, I'm texting them. I'm not voice messaging them, but they're voice messaging me. People who don't get that, it's just like, like sometimes I have people reaching out to me like, hey, I need something from you. And then they send me like 8 voice messages and I'm like, no. But 100%, quick tool, Whisperflow. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I use it every day.
So good.
Phenomenal.
Guys, if you don't use Whisperflow, you're living in the Stone Age.
Phenomenal.
You're wasting so much time. It's basically, I hold one button and I say anything and it types it for me and the recognition is so good. It's ridiculous. So good. It even gets names right. And it's just, it's basically, I never have to type again. I'm just talking to my computer now. Really good. Hopefully not going to be something like this. You may have seen this. Like it's this AI pinup, the worst product I've ever reviewed from Marcus Brownlee. It's this thing that you clip on your chest and it has this projector screen. That seems like such a pain. I mean, it seems like a cool thing in a movie, in a sci-fi movie, like, but no, that seems like look at how you have to use it. It's like you have to turn your hand and stuff like that, and just like cool. I mean,
it looks cool. Yeah, it looks cool.
It looks cool, but like, would you want to actually use it? No. And then Google actually recently also talked about their new glasses, which I think is interesting. Glasses make sense to me if it was a set of glasses. Sucks for people who already are wearing glasses.
What about contacts?
Oh, that's like...
I have a question for you guys. Are you just like zooming out? Are you excited about this world? Are you excited to live in the world that's being created here?
100%.
100%.
Yes, 100%. I'm both. I'm like, the upside is really cool. The potential downside is massive if it goes out of hand. It's like a atomic bomb type of thing. I think that could also happen. I think as long as we cap the downside, I'm mostly excited about it. And I think it's just going to amplify what we already have, right? People who are lonely, they're probably going to use it more as an addictive tool to become more lonely. People who are using it for productivity and inspiration and learning, they're going to it's just going to be that on steroids, like even more amplified. And I think what's going to become more and more important is our ability to have high agency for our habits. What do you think?
I'm curious to hear what you think.
Yeah. I'm excited. I feel like it's going to create more obstacles. And I feel like for us to grow, we need to pass these obstacles. And I think it's going to throw like a lot of curveballs at us because it's moving so fast. So it's like people can't really prepare for it. Compared to before, I feel like with the internet, I mean, it moved fast, but you could still prepare for what's coming up compared to AI. I mean, from now until 6 months, so many things can change. And then from then 6 months to like 3 months, everything can change in an instant. So the reality is if you're not constantly innovating or constantly adapting, dude, you're going to be left behind. And I think that learning that skill set is going to be so valuable for humanity on like a massive scale.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
I don't know. I'm not that excited about this stuff. I mean,
Oh, you mean the glasses specifically?
I'm not super excited about the glasses. I'm not super excited about the
IO.
tool that Marcus Brownlee shared. I'm excited about IO insofar as I just want less clutter. You know what I mean?
You
Like,
didn't want to wear the headphones and you don't want to have the mic.
yeah, exactly. I want, dude, like, to me, the whole point and purpose of life is to like connect with other human beings and like deepen our love for each other.
Yeah.
And I also love learning. I love learning. And that's what I really come to like about ChatGPT is just I get deep research reports made for me all the time. But what I don't want is I don't want barriers to human connection, which I think the phone has really had. And then I think the AirPods actually accelerated that. I think it'd be really nice to live in a world where no one wears headphones in public. I think that that could be good, except for, you know, maybe at a WeWork or something like that. And then
What about podcasts?
yeah, definitely not on this thing. You know what I
that all
mean?
makes sense. This
like-
is why he
he's
didn't
trying
want-
to gain an inch here. He's trying to get, you know, it's like how many more hints can I get that I want to take these off? You're gonna keep these on.
I'll keep them on. I'll keep them on. No, like no headphones in public. And then the
Yeah.
other thing is just really creating devices that aren't filled with landmines. Like I don't want to have to pick up my phone, which I bought and I pay for, and have to open it and then be super careful and cautious about where I end up, lest I spend 35 minutes down some crazy rabbit hole,
Yeah.
look at the clock and say, what did I just do with the last 30 minutes?
Have you noticed with YouTube the change where when you type something in search, it shows you what you looked for, like 3 or 4 suggestions, and then you scroll down more, and then it's like more suggestions of like random stuff that just steals your attention. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. I mean, the whole internet exists to hijack our attention. I just think that's a crazy place that we've ended up.
Yes.
And I think technology is really cool and there's a lot of potential. And this gets back to what I like about Johnny Ive is I think that he understands what it means to be a human being well. And he thinks deeply about humans that are spirits and souls. And that came through in what you felt when you opened an Apple product.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I went to Macworld in 2007, 2008, when they released the first ever iPhone. I remember there was this glass case.
You were there.
I was there. And the iPhone was just spinning. And you looked at this and it was like the Holy Grail was right in front of you. I mean, I'm like drooling there, like, wow, technology can be like that. And it now seems like technology is a little bit more divisive and it doesn't have that kind of magical quality to it where you get a sense that there was care there. It's a little bit more like the technologies are progressing really fast, so we got to keep up, and there's now this crazy arms race between US and China, between Anthropic and OpenAI and Twitter and Google and Facebook and like all these people. And the way that the competitive dynamics are set up right now aren't set up in a way that I think facilitates really deep thought. But I'm very happy that people in San Francisco and different places are actually scared about AI because it's forcing us to at the same time be more deliberate and explicit about how we think about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like a small tweak in direction, like just a few degrees, is going to make a big difference now. Because whatever big decisions get made now, if it's just a few degrees of a difference, as we go further and further, it's going to make a massive difference in where we end up.
100%. So I mean, based on what you just said, so like kind of create the kind of ideal world you see where technology, AI fits, and then, because I agree with you, connection,
That's
I think.
Great question. Yeah. Well, it's sort of case by case. But one of the things that I would hope, the core thing, is that your phone understands. Here's the thing. so much of technology is built around our short-term desires, which are different from our long-term desires. Okay. So what you want to do today, and then tomorrow when you wake up, what you want to do tomorrow is different from how you would have wanted to spend the days of your year once you get to December 31st. Okay. And I think one of the challenges of the modern world is capitalism, social media, whatever it is, preys on our short-term desires, which are different from our long-term ones. And I had a friend who sat me down on Tuesday. We're at lunch. 65-year-old guy. I respect this guy tremendously. He's one of my best friends, a real mentor to me. And he said, I wanted to talk to you about something today. And don't get me wrong, I don't want every conversation to be like this, but every now and then it's good. And he said, where are you going? Like, at your funeral, what do you want people to say about you? He said, I'd like for you to give a good answer, and then I would like for you to walk through your decisions in life right now and tell me how those are aligned with what you're getting to. And all this is to say, that is like the most long-term mindset. And I'm not saying we should always be in that. And then the challenge with social media is it preys on what we want right here, right now, which isn't really good for us. And then the way that people get out of the critique there is they're saying, oh, we're just giving people what they want. But
No.
pure liberalism and pure availability and access and convenience isn't good for us.
Yeah. It's not what we want. It's just what, I mean, it's what we are easily captured by.
Yeah.
Right? And
Capture's a good word.
yeah, and I think Gary Vee, one of his points is, social media just exposed who we are. It's like, no, it also made it worse. It made us more addicted. It made us more addictive. So do you think there's going to be, what do you think the future is going to look like? Like, do you think it's dystopian, utopian, both, in the middle?
It's both. It's both. It's like the modern world now. You go back to 1800s, you would say, wow, look at these buildings. There's airplanes that can fly. Dude, I'm 30 years old. Every single time I see an airplane, I am blown away. There's just Alaska Airlines 737 landed right there. It just blows my mind that airplanes can fly. Air travel, all of that. It's just magnificent. So there's things about the modern world that are great. Access to knowledge. And then there's things about the modern world that clearly aren't. The rates of women on SSRIs, the way that enchantedness and mysticism just sort of disappeared over the last 250 years. It's both. I think the future will be both.
Why are you smirking at me like that?
Listen, I love what he's saying.
Why do you do it like I'm the cause of it? Or I'm like, I told you so.
You're gonna be a therapist right now.
Okay.
All right. So we got we both are logical, but we also he's extremely into logic, and sometimes I like to believe in things that aren't there because I feel like sometimes those things are. There's a lot in the world that we don't believe, that people don't believe, that I think holds a lot of power around mysticism. And I think sometimes just trusting that things are going to flow the way they're supposed to flow is gold. So
but here's the thing. I'm not extremely logical. I'm logical. This man, not logical. That's my story. Tell him about teledipity. Wait, do you want me to explain it?
Hey,
have you heard
do what you got to do.
Have you heard of numerology?
Tell me about it.
It's the idea that certain numbers hold a certain spiritual meaning. And numerology is an app, teledipity is an app where you put in your name and your birth year.
Yeah.
And then it gives you a number life path, and then it gives you certain, every month gives you a review and hey, you have a big decision coming up.
So it's astrology for numbers.
Yes. There's no logic. There's no. And here's the thing.
So here's the thing. I study a lot of religions. Study Hermetics, Kabbalah, Christianity, Islam, everything together. And through those studies, I've become very successful. So when it comes to business, obviously very logical. I'm not into the woo-woo stuff. I'm very all right, let's get the numbers, let's get what we need to get done. But when it comes to life, I told him I've made every big decision off that single app, and I've never been richer and never been happier.
But also business decisions.
With specific decisions in terms of how I'm going to move forward, 100%. Not with the actual clients themselves. Because I feel like sometimes you find things when you need hope. It's kind of like religion. Sometimes you'll find religion when you're in a very dark place. And I'm I don't care. I just need something to help me move through these cycles. And when I found that app, it was during a very low time in my life, and it was something that was constantly positive and constantly giving me the next step. It was like, hey, this month nothing's gonna happen, but just be patient, keep developing yourself, keep working on what you need to work on, and everything's gonna flow. And whether it's real or not, whether it's like a random guy in like the Philippines just writing something, it doesn't matter. It gave me something to hold on to because I saw it happening, whether I was manifesting it myself or whether it just energetically was happening.
Want to hear something crazy on that? So as I explain this, can you look up Donald Trump and then put in quotes, I pretend it doesn't matter. Yeah, this. Okay, so now I can get into it. So I'm talking to a friend the other day, and I'm like, you've met Donald Trump, you've been to the White House. Tell me what's the vibe that you get from him? And he goes, oh, this is the core thing. When you're with him, it's kind of like he sees everything as like one big joke almost, where he's like the lightest person in the room and everyone else is like, oh my goodness, I'm at the White House. This is like a major trade thing or whatever. This is so serious. And there's this sense that Donald Trump has this sort of, it'll all be good. And that for him, it's all kind of like a game. It's all like, okay, we'll just sort of see how it goes. Goes well, fine. If it doesn't go well, fine. And then this quote, I think, is really interesting. Somebody asked him and said, how do you do it? And he says, I try and tell myself it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. If you tell yourself it doesn't matter, like you do shows, you do this, you do that. And then you got earthquakes in India where 400,000 people get killed. Honestly, it doesn't matter. That's how I handle stress. So I think this is extremely interesting.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's interesting. Now, if I were to meet Donald Trump, what I would ask him is, how do you think like that? How do you think like this? And not become a nihilist about it. And not just give up completely. What actually gets you there and compels you to action? Because the word that you were using is a kind of surrender. And there's people who do well, who have a very tight-fisted grasp on reality. They're like a F1 driver, like, got to make sure I get every single turn right, cannot crash the car. And then there's other people who have this lightness about them. And they're like surrendered to reality, to God, the universe, whatever it is. And I want to know what's behind those people, because those people, when you have that kind of lightness, there's a peace, there's a joy, there's a levity that you can live with. And I think that's freaking magical.
Yeah, he does have that. I would call it the simulation mindset. Where it's like, we're just in a simulation. We're just like, this is a video game. Have you actually seen this channel, Coming Home, on YouTube? It's a channel, it's a series of interviews where it's people who are atheists or used to be atheists who died and came back. And they
came back to life?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. They had some sort of like accident where they were dead, and they all described the same experiences, which is like, yeah, I had this like weird 3D view that was like, I don't know, I can't describe it. We don't have view like that. And then there were these light beings, and I had this overwhelming feeling of love. And I looked down at my body, and I looked like, I thought to myself, interesting. That was my costume. That was like pretend. This was just theater. And this is real. When they were dead, they were like, oh, this is the reality. We were just, it's not a video game, but to them it's like theater. It's like pretend. And I think that, like, if you ever want to feel like, hey, things don't matter, like, go watch these videos. Watch a series of them. And I was so uplifted. All the worries that I had throughout that day or the past weeks, I was just like, yeah, we're just here to learn. And this is pretend play. Like a child plays with like toys and pretends like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come with my Hot Wheels. Oh, it's like, that's what we are doing right now in real life. And so they had this realization, and over and over and over again.
Dude, have you heard of Alan Watts?
Yeah.
Alan Watts talks about that. He's like, everybody's in a play. You're the actor, you're the audience member, you're everybody, you're the stage light, and the reality is you're just having fun. And when you look at life from that perspective, the reality is nothing bad. It's just part of the story.
It's a video game.
It is.
Do you know what's weird, actually, talking about video games? And I noticed that when I dream, it's always a video game. How do you guys dream? Because there's an interesting fact that I heard that when TV came on, when TV was invented, it was black and white. People ended up having a lot of black and white dreams. And then as soon as color TV was developed, they had like more color dreams again.
It's interesting.
And I, growing up playing video games, I oftentimes dream as if it's a video game. So just a little side note.
So how does that show up? Like, can you press like little X's and O's?
There's some
like
sometimes
Xbox,
jump.
PS5.
like sometimes it's a third person view.
You're like a PC video game kid.
Definitely. He looks like a Minecraft kind of guy.
Oh god, yeah, it's super blocky, like everything. Yeah. No, it's like oftentimes it's like 3D perspective, and there's some sort of interface, some sort of like. Whoa. Am I? Is it anyone else?
This is why mysticism is good. We like what you're saying. This is.
I mean, the world is clearly a very mystical place,
100%.
and there are things that are true about reality that are so far beyond our senses. I mean, think of something as simple as light waves and the light spectrum. Can you get an image of the light spectrum up?
Yeah.
So the light spectrum, there's so many different bands. Yeah, this. Yes. Yeah, so look at this. So we have cosmic rays, gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, visible light. That's our entire experience of reality. Then there's infrared, microwaves, radar, radio, broadcast band. All this is to say that all those different waves of light are things that are true about reality itself. They're moving all around us, but we can only see such a small spectrum of the light waves. And this is the thing that I push back on with materialists is...
I'm not a materialist, by the way. This is...
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
He took me and he violently squeezed me into that box that I do not fit in, and now my back hurts.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
So now you're the materialist guy.
No, I am not a materialist. Listen, I am spiritual. I
love you,
meditate.
David.
I believe there's a higher power. I believe in a God, and I believe that there's life after death.
Okay.
So take that, Iman. Take that. Look at how big my box is now. Look at how much space I have in this box.
David, you're a therapist, all right?
So anyway, I just always come back to this, that visible light is such a small percentage of the actual light waves in the world. And now this is something I've been thinking a lot about. So I have a show called How I Write, and I get to meet a lot of really cool writers. And recently I've been talking to fiction writers. I hadn't really spent a lot of time with fiction writers. You know, I've interviewed Dean Koontz is there, but now coming up, Paul Harding, Jane Ann Phillips next few weeks. And fiction writers, I've come to realize, in terms of their personality, they're much more like musicians and painters than they are like super logical nonfiction types. And when you talk to them, you get a sense that they're tapped into some level of reality that most people aren't tapped into. And what I do when I meet these people, the question that I ask is, how are you psychic? So let me define psychic. This is what I mean by that. That normal people have some experience of reality that's through our ordinary senses. And things that we can feel and touch and see and hear, whatever it is, and taste. And then people who are psychic are tuned into some layer of reality that is true, but just like it's outside of almost the visible light spectrum. And so they can intuit and just know for a fact certain things about how the world works that the rest of us are like, how did you know that? In the same way that if someone could see radio waves going right in front of us, they'd be like, look at all those things right there. You'd be like, what do you mean? And I think that great artists, a lot of what they do, great entrepreneurs, people, great politicians, people who do something extraordinary, who speak to something about the human experience that other people don't get to, they're psychic in that way because they're tuned in to another layer of reality.
Yeah, I believe 100% in that. And also intuition. I think there's some sort of program that you can tap into that is, you can't know how the dots got connected to get to the conclusion, but you just got to like tap into it and trust. And I mean, there's like, have you heard of the telepathy tapes, stuff like that?
It's just like MK Ultra stuff?
No, it's like these autistic kids that literally can do remote viewing. Or there's this woman that worked with multiple autistic children, and they all have this one place that they go to in their mind that's called the hill. and people know each other and they're friends, and then they meet up in real life and they're like, yeah, they all have this history together. It's like it's crazy.
That's crazy. Like
It's wild.
was it with the CIA or they?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But wild. And they can do remote viewing. They can be like, they know you can bring a box to them, like what's in the box, and they can tell you what's in it without seeing it. Wild stuff.
That's powerful.
So yeah, how are you psychic? It's good.
How am I?
that.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good question to
how
ask.
are you? I ask a similar question. I used to ask a similar question.
I don't know. I feel like it's a question for other people to answer about you.
Okay.
I feel like that's a question for other people to answer about
Yeah.
you. I don't have a
used
good
to ask
answer
a
for
similar
myself.
question on dates. Is how are you psycho?
How are you psycho?
Also, really good question, but different.
Do you get honest answers on dates?
No, but it tells you whether they self-aware or not.
Right.
You know, whether they humble.
No, I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It seems that way.
exactly.
One last thing before. It's interesting. You were saying that one thing I heard recently is the life you're living right now is the choices you made 3 years ago. And I thought it was really, really interesting because it's like, you can't see the strings being pulled together. And sometimes 3 years ago, you took an action that, small example, like us meeting a year ago. Not in a million years would I ever thought we'd be on a podcast doing this right now. But it's crazy because that small interaction built like a level of rapport, connection. You know what I'm talking about? So it's like, it's crazy how all the pieces of the puzzle are together, but you don't really know it until you can take a step back and look at it from the grand picture. Yeah.
Another AI thing. I found this channel of Elon Musk. Let me just get your reaction first.
You wasted an hour today. You probably don't even know where it went, but it's gone. And that's why you still feel stuck. Most people never escape that loop. But there's a rule, a simple one, that changed everything for me. It's not sexy, but it works. And it works every single time. After my rockets exploded live on television, I had to regain everything by protecting one sacred hour every single day. I will show you how. But before then, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you genuinely enjoy.
So
Is this a parody?
No. Well, here's the
That
thing.
voice doesn't sound fake. That voice sounds like that. It just sounds like a contrived AI voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Here's the thing. This is completely AI generated, right? Like,
Okay.
Elon Musk is not a YouTuber. He's not saying, hey, like and subscribe to this video, right? And I remember seeing the thumbnail. The thumbnail looked so fake already. Like, it doesn't look like him, like, you know? And I was like, interesting. What is this? That's so funny. And I'm like,
That was so obviously AI
yeah,
generated.
yeah.
To me.
And how many dislikes does it have? I click on the video. Holy shit. Barely any. Tons of likes. Like 6,600 likes, only 100 dislikes. I go down to the comments. I'm like, surely people are like, oh, this is wild. Listening from Washington, D.C., we really appreciate your commitment to truth and your willingness to share your life lessons here. Thank you so much. This is great content. Oh, this person knows it's AI. Wow, listening to your wonderful video. Thank you, Elon. You never stop giving. These are people that don't know that this is AI.
Oh, they actually believe it.
Yes, they do. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, we're so cooked. Like, I can already see my parents seeing some AI generated stuff about what's happening in Austin or whatever, or in the world, and they just straight up believe it.
No, I'm gonna make an AI generation of you and send it to your parents.
Just like me doing drugs on the streets.
Leon,
God.
YouTuber, heroin addict. The story. And then send it to your parents.
Yeah. But it's that's scary, right?
That's
it's like
insane.
it's
I mean, it's already happening with those scam texts.
oh yeah.
I got one that pretended to be Coinbase this week. That was scary good. Did you get that one?
Yeah, be careful with that one.
Dude, I looked at it. It said someone was trying to hack into your Coinbase account. I was like, geez, okay, this one looks legit. And then Coinbase actually sent me an email the next day about this hack. But the hacks are getting really good.
Yeah, I keep getting one where I haven't paid a toll, and I used my friend's car, and I was like, how did they know that I drove? And I kept sending it to him, and I'm like, hey, do you think this is like, do we owe something? And he's like, no, it's probably just a scam. I looked at the website, it looks legit. And and I keep getting it, and sometimes I'm still like, do I owe a toll? But
The
I
toll
don't
ones are
think so.
good, dude. The toll ones are really good.
So
That
there-
one
it's
almost
also
got me. The
scam.
toll one, I was like, I remember like one time just going past like a toll. I'm like, damn, it's like I owe $3, but I'm like, are they gonna come after me? Like that one, I'm with you on it 110%.
So it is a scam.
Yeah. I looked it up, and the number, it was like, yeah, if you're getting this specific thing, it's a scam.
Yeah.
Yeah, the toll ones don't do
I
it.
mean, we're talking about, hey, it's a modern world better. I mean, basically, all of us are getting scammed every single day, and that's just like a fact of life that we just march on. Oh yeah, well that's just how it is.
That's so true. I never thought of it that way.
Like some scammer is attacking our most personal device, reaching us in our pocket every single day, and we just chalk this up as like a cost of doing business in 2025.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
It is messed up. Like imagine if we have an interface with IO, some product that's like always with us, and that cannot happen.
Oh, if they hacked
That
it, we'd be
cannot
We'd be
happen.
fucked. If they hacked like ChatGPT, we'd be so fucked.
Dude, the Indian scammers, the scam centers that they are having a blast right now. Like they must be so on the cutting edge of AI and be using it really well, because they can scam so many old people. Like it's. I saw this meme recently. I thought that was hilarious. Indian scammers if they had an American accent.
Dude, 100%.
Right?
100%. Dude,
It's like the one thing that makes it so easy to catch. Like, hey, why am I talking to an Apple person? Why are you in the US? You sound like you have an accent.
Dude, there was like a backyard party once, and it was like an Indian guy on a DJ set, and he just dropped the bass, and it was like, and the caption was like, not one scam call was made that day. And they're all just vibing, living their best life, just dancing, and I'm just like thinking about it. I'm like, dude, 100%.
Where do you see culture shifting? Like we talked about AI, we talked about, but you're someone who I see as someone who's really tapped into what's happening, what has happened in the past, and someone who's very curious and observant. So what do you see as like a shift, cultural shifts that you see coming up?
I mean, the obvious one is the move to Christianity.
Yeah. What's behind that? Other than #1 best-selling book, the Bible. Shout out.
Yeah. So what's behind it? So, well, I'll just talk about my story. So I became a Christian March 19th, 2023. So the thing that got me, and also a lot of people I know, is this sense of we grew up in this world of like what's empirically true is true when it comes to learning in school, and then trust the news and also trust authorities. And then all of that was kind of wrapped up within this sort of atheism, agnosticism of we're not really going to take Christianity seriously. And that's what I was. I mean, I basically thought all Christians were idiots until I met a guy in 2017. And then I think that COVID did something where what happened was, remember the lab leak? How a lot of people are like, I don't know, one of the biggest sort of weapons or there's a giant lab in Wuhan, right? Where the virus is from. And actually, no, the virus didn't come from the lab. It came from this little supermarket right down the street. And people are like, you just kind of sniff that one out and you're like, I don't know. The kind of Occam's razor, simplest answers just came from the dang lab down the street,
Yeah.
And then it was like forbidden to think that, right? You like weren't allowed to share that on social media. You weren't really allowed to talk about it. If you were, it's like you're being racist. And then there's like a report, I think it was from the World Health Organization a few years later, that's like, oh, turns out most likely thing that happened is it came from the lab according to the World Health Organization. And you're like, wait, hold on. We weren't allowed to believe that. And now it's been 2.5, 3 years. And now you're saying institutionally that's the most likely thing that happened. And there were just all of these things that happened, one after another, and after another. And at some point, you just stop trusting human beings and sort of these institutions and these authorities.
Yeah.
So there was that. And also, we're living in this moment of great uncertainty, great change. You know, I was talking to someone who lived in China from like 2006 to 2012. And the internet happened a lot faster here than it did there during those years. And she kind of came back into American culture. And she said, oh my goodness, I feel like this whole internet thing, I missed 6 years and now I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to catch up again. And she kind of never did. And then we've been talking about AI, and you have smartphones, and you have geopolitical uncertainty between America and China. You have all of these things going on. And when there is great uncertainty in the world, I think you want to cling on to something that's deeper and true.
And timeless.
And timeless. Thank you. Exactly. And then you just have the kind of dissatisfaction that a lot of people feel around a sense of loneliness. You know, we got all these comforts and all these things and air conditioning, but like somehow it's not filling some like deep yearning in our heart. I don't know. You think about all that, you're like, I don't know, maybe the Bible is a book with wisdom beyond any human. Maybe there's actually some higher power out there that if I had a connection with Christ, that maybe that would fill the longing in my heart. And you just get these things one after another. And all of that combined, I think, is leading to the rise of Christianity.
Yeah. It makes sense. I think, man, when humans are just left to their own devices and just like we tend to choose the thing that is not the right thing, but the thing that is just the most addictive or craving or just like impulse. It seems like there's like, I have this theory that we still have this leftover like primal, I mean, we do have a primal brain that's still left over that we're like evolving out of, you know, because I always think about like a fish when a fish goes from, when it went from the sea to land, it wasn't a smooth transition. It wasn't like at some point a fish had babies come out or, you know, hatch some eggs and then they had legs and then they walked out. No, it was like this weird transition in between where it could kind of walk on land, but it also had these fins that were in the way. And I think that's what we're at right now with humanity, where we have this like old part of ourselves still that we're shedding, that it's like this primal part that is like jealous, that has an ego, that, you know. And I think part of the evolution of humanity is having a moral code and a spiritual guidance where it's like, hey, this is where we're going, rather than like giving into all these lower impulses of the ego.
I get it. Even like the instant gratification. That's exactly what you're saying. The society that we live in is all about instant gratification. And the people that succeed are the ones that can delay that gratification and look for a long-term fulfillment. Because, yeah.
Everything's about instant gratification. I mean, look outside. Look at any downtown, right? What do you see? You see a lot of right angles. You see a lot of glass. You see downtowns that look fairly similar to new builds all around the world. And what you see in the buildings, in the architecture, if you want to understand what a society believes, don't listen to what they say. Look at what they make. Look at what they make. And when the history books are written and we look back at this time, we're going to see, as we see in the architecture, that we value rationality, we value efficiency, we treat humans a bit like robots, we value expedience and convenience. You know, we want things to be built quickly. I was talking to a friend who was looking for an apartment here in Austin. I said, okay, how'd you think about where to live and stuff like that? He said, well, the first thing was after 2008, the build quality just got way worse. So I had to live in a building that was built before 2008. And look up Victorian pumping stations.
I think I saw this recently on...
They're so beautiful. Like Charing Cross Station in London is probably what'll come up. Or Crossness Pumping Station. Yes, this. It is, but look at the inside. It's absolutely beautiful. Okay? Show the inside, though. This is the outside. Yeah, these ones below. Yeah, this Crossness Pumping Station. Ooh. It's so pretty.
Wow.
And like, what's wild is, you know what this is? This is a place, this is a sewage facility. It's a sewage facility. And it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, this is nicer, has more ornamentation and care built into it than most of the places that billionaires live here in 2025. Look up inspiring Walt Disney and then decorative arts book.
Dude, I love how you have all these things already like in your head. Like, hey, I have the perfect Google prompts.
Okay, yeah. Go to images. So check this out. So this is this one of my favorite books. And so what this book is, open up some of the pages down here. So what this book is what Walt did is, I think when he was like 19 and then later in life, he went to Europe and he marched around and basically picked up all of these European inspirations. And what this book does, it was built out of a exhibit at the Met a few years ago. And it shows how Walt took chairs and like Baroque pieces of furniture, couches, cutlery, looked at the castles for the Sleeping Beauty castle at Disney, and how that all inspired the world that Walt built. This is a great example, right? And all this is to say that the society, the values that created this on the left are different from what you see when you look outside.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the great tragedies of the modern world is the lack of beauty. The lack of beauty exists kind of on top of a lack of craftsmanship. The lack of craftsmanship exists on the lack of a belief that humans are souls and that the spirit is meant to be uplifted and cultivated in the things that you make. And then that is on top of the spiritual degradation, the lack of a relationship with God that we no longer have in our society. And all of that just shows up in the downtown that you see.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a lack of connection, because when I think of AI companies, I think of scale and numbers. Like somebody who's creating a product is like, how do we scale this? Because on the spreadsheet, here's the number that we want to reach, rather than let's go out and talk to a human. Like, what do you think about this product? Like, how do you interact with it? How do you know?
I think it's also really powerful you're talking about. Basically, what you're saying is like creativity is kind of getting taken away. And the reality is, because it's getting so mundane, it's becoming instant gratification, people are losing that creativity. I think creativity is what builds, like what built AI.
But it's deeper. It's deeper than creativity. It is like, I want to make things that. So I was in London a few weeks ago. Okay, I got to London and I was going to go for like 4 days, and I ended up staying 2.5 weeks. And I had something happen to me that had never happened in my life. That because it was so beautiful there, relative to Austin, which is not a very pretty place, I felt this like uplifting in my spirit. And I was like, what is going on? I had all these negative behaviors that just sort of went away. And this like sense of joy and like meaning that was like infused into me by just the beautiful things around me. And I was like, I need to stay here to just like live inside of this pocket. And I think that if you take seriously the idea, yes, you can create things, but you can be creative in ways that uplift the human spirit and ways that don't. And these monuments are built by people, or actually a lot of these are just ordinary buildings. You know, one thing I think is interesting. So would you type in London architecture? What you end up seeing is like these giant, you know, famous buildings, but also just type in like London street lamps. Even these are more beautiful. And all this is to say that beauty is a choice that we have. We can have street lamps that look like that, or we can have street lamps that are just poles with another thing I would do if I was a mayor of a city, I would make sure that there's no street lamps with that really light white blue light. It all have to be orange lights.
The anxiety attack light.
Ugh, it's awful. It makes you want to puke. Literally, it makes you feel like you're in a hospital room. And all this is to say about creativity, it's deeper than that. It's like honoring the human spirit.
So, okay, do you think that... I had a really good question about this. The architecture in Europe is very different than the architecture in America.
Yeah.
Do you think because it's so ingrained in their culture, they never shifted it compared to us, where we kind of tried to mimic? Because if you look at Portugal, you look at Spain, you look at London, they're similar, not the same. They're obviously their own kind of style, but the reality is like America was built after all this stuff was built. So the reality is, I think, but now I feel like people are following America. Like look at Dubai. Dubai's following more the American structure. So what do you think is gonna come first? You know what I'm talking? I don't know how to ask this question. I'm trying. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things I have to credit my friend, the cultural tutor on Twitter, for really opening my eyes to this. He would give me a tour through London every day while we were there. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had never seen this so clearly. Now, if you type in the Bauhaus, Bauhaus, this is in Germany.
Oh, Bauhaus.
Yeah, so you'll see this. This is how, so they've really inspired a lot of modern architecture. And what's happened is, so you see how big those windows are? That's actually one of the major innovations of the Bauhaus. And it's been great, actually. It's really nice being inside of places with big windows. If you go to old buildings, they're so much darker than the new ones because the windows are smaller. The thing that I don't think we figured out how to do is create a lot of visible natural light coming in and good views while also making buildings that are really beautiful. I don't think we've quite figured that out. But to your point with what you're saying is the things that are built now in Europe that are basically modern in a similar way that American buildings are modern. Actually, the Europeans are a bit more experimental. So if you type in Amsterdam modern architecture,
Amsterdam has
Amsterdam's incredible.
like Amsterdam has, but type in Amsterdam modern architecture. So we think of those houses, those houses on the canals as what we think of when we think of Amsterdam. But look at these. Wow. These buildings are very experimental. Like you see that sort of green building at the bottom. Some of them are apartments. This is a museum in Amsterdam. If you scroll down, like there's just so many innovative new buildings. So there's a lot of experimentation in Europe now.
That's amazing. This is what it looks like from the
it's
back.
cool stuff, isn't it?
I always loved so I live on the Dutch border, and the moment you cross the border, things get way more beautiful. Where I'm from in Germany, and I think in general Germany, it sucks. They have the blockiest buildings, so ugly. Like it's
that's a great example, right?
It's just what's the utility? People need to live in here. It's very structurally sound. Like these houses will last, but that's also a bad thing because they look horrible.
But also think of what you're saying. You're just talking about buildings. That is also exactly what German culture is like. At the risk of painting with a really broad brush.
100%.
Like Germany, super efficient. You said structurally sound. I mean, how many great engineering companies are from Germany? But you don't get that same sense of care and soul. And you go over to Holland and you just see in the building, it's like so pre-intellectual. Like, oh, this is a different culture. Like they believe different things about the nature of the good life.
You can tell the culture but you have that in so many other areas in life where you can tell someone's personality by what their apartment looks like.
Yeah.
Or like this here, I didn't do this. This was my girlfriend. This was, like making it a little bit pretty, but I'm happy with just like mattress on the floor, and I live like that.
100%.
You as well.
Yeah, 100%. Right?
Simplistic. If I went into your apartment, my assumption is you thought about what you put in there. It's like
my apartment's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Messy in a good way?
No. It's not messy. It's crazy. I mean, I have a studio in town that I invested a preposterous amount of time into.
yes. Okay, good.
Preposterous.
Yeah. Great.
You're gonna have to give us a video tour.
Yeah, I'm actually hiring a photographer right now to take photos of it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, if we have time, if it's in time, we'll plug it in here if you're willing to share it. But yeah, you can tell so much by what they make as well. And so I actually want to bring it back to Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
You're a writer. You're obsessed with writing. You love the craft, the craftsmanship. And the way I want to apply it to, like what I'm curious about is how does that apply to communication? Because I think writing is just communication. And what I want to know how to communicate more clearly. And I think of someone like Steve Jobs. He was known to communicate extremely clearly. And you see it, the parallel again, in his products, in Apple. When I'm using a MacBook, when I'm using an iPhone, it is so intuitive and clear and simple. And that's like difficult to make, like something that is so stripped down to its essentials. So I'm curious what you've learned about communication, that's like the 80-20 of like, here's how to communicate better, whether it's in writing or even just like your thinking. Because he was also known to be a very clear thinker.
Yeah, so the thing that you got to figure out is what's your style. Okay, so there's certain people. Shakespeare said brevity is the soul of wit, and what he's saying is there's certain people who are very good at distilling and getting things down to their essence. For example, my friend Harry Dry, we see the video on the screen right here. He's that kind of guy. He's really good at putting things into principles and removing words. He talks about the 3 rules of copywriting. This video is fantastic. And then there's other people.
Wait, is this your apartment? This is what I'm imagining.
I wish this was my apartment. No. This is a hotel in Mayfair in London.
That would be so cool.
Record
Hilarious.
at. I wish this was my apartment.
Can you imagine you go into like a blocky Austin building, you can walk in there and it's like, boom, David's place, just like that. That'd be so sick.
It's the only outlier in there.
Yeah. Interesting. So what does he talk about? He talks about...
So he says 3 rules of copywriting. Can I visualize it? Can I falsify it? Can nobody else write this? But all this is to say, there's certain people who are brevity people, where they're really good at coining phrases and one-liners and breaking things down into principles. And what they're really good at is they're editors. They spend a lot of time writing and removing. And the thing that people don't realize about writing is it's not about writing, it's about rewriting. Rewriting is really where writing happens.
It's actually the same thing that when you use ChatGPT, come up with something for me, you're still a writer because you're then taking what ChatGPT gave you and you're just like, I'm taking this information, I like this nugget, you're editing.
Yeah, right. So a lot of sculpting, a lot of removing. And one of the things that you see with a lot of people who are great communicators is what they do is they hang out with people and they see people as basically an audience that they can test out their bits on. So they'll host dinners and they will literally say the same thing over and over and over and over again. And what they're actually doing is looking into people's eyes and getting a sense for what people actually resonate with. And this is how you get someone like Jeff Bezos, who just says focus on the customer over and over again. Or people like Peter Thiel does this, where he's constantly having dinners with people, working on his riffs, trying to basically find what is the best way to say this. And then that's how he comes up with ideas. So that's one thing that I would say is what's great is there's so many different ways to get better at communication. And it's really just a matter of, are you going to be someone who spends a lot of time at the keyboard editing? Or are you going to be somebody who is hosting dinners and you're just kind of talking over and over again, working on your lines? You're going to be someone who's a big reader. You're going to be someone who's talking to people all the time in conversation. But that is what I love about writing, is that through writing and rewriting, you get the ideas clear, the message succinct, the words precise, and then it just becomes way easier to actually explain that in speech.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's one of the skills that I think I got to get better at.
Writing.
And clarifying my thinking. And I think the best tool to do that is writing, because you can look at, here's how I'm saying it, and then, okay, let me read it over again. Let me see, how can I add flavor? How can I add one word that adds a feeling that is important to the message that I'm trying to convey?
Mm-hmm. What's the thing that has stopped you from getting better at it?
I just haven't made time for it, honestly. The distractions on the phone, the distractions on social media, everything.
Dude, we're so distracted on our phones. It's crazy.
Just other things bombarding my attention. I'm curious, what is, like, did you have dinner with Peter Thiel? Have you had connection? Because I know you had Sam Altman on your podcast. I think you talked to a bunch of billionaires. And Peter Thiel, were you able to connect with him as well?
I've had dinner with Peter 5 or 6 times. I don't want to talk about it. Just out of, I don't know what I'm allowed to say and can't say, and I want to do it again. So
yeah, you don't have to talk about the content of what you talked about. What was the experience like?
Well,
did you have the salmon? Did you have the steak?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, great.
Some amazing nights, I'll tell you off the podcast.
Wow. In my mind, I'm just like, they just went to a strip club. They did the craziest thing. So yeah, that's what we.
You sit down and you chat for like 7 hours. It's great.
Oh wow, really that long?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some long dinners. I don't think we've done 7. I think we've done 5 hours though.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
A lot of wine. Talk about esoteric things.
Oh, yeah, it's sick, dude.
It's really fun.
I think writers are the most vulnerable to the distraction that we live in. You have writer's block, and then you have the writer's block stops them from writing, and then it's so easy to just like, oh, open a new tab, let me get some inspiration, let me, and then boom, you're down the rabbit hole. I think there are so many great inventors, writers, artists that we'll never see because of TikTok algorithm. Like they'll just get sucked in. They weren't able to conquer that enemy. What have you found is like what are some of the tools that you use to focus or maybe it's not even tools, maybe it's mindsets or like viewpoints that you have or something that like it protects you from that?
It's really hard. One of the things is the daylight computer is really nice because it doesn't do much. So you kind of are forced to write there. And then the other thing is I just use
daylight computer?
Oh, just type it up. The daylight computer. It's a startup, and they've just built a product that they do a very good job explaining on their site.
Oh, the computer de-invented. See, that's such clear communication. Just so boom.
Designed for deep focus, well-being.
All right, how much?
I think it's $7.99. $7.29.
Okay.
It's just for writing.
It's for reading. It's for writing. What's really nice about it is it just doesn't do much. I use ChatGPT on it.
It has ChatGPT on it?
Yeah. I read books, read articles. That's it.
And you can't go on any Google. You can't go on any of that stuff.
Not really.
You probably can, but it really sucks. It's really slow.
Yeah.
It's like a Kindle that you can actually write on.
It's their site, their branding is magnificent. This is the world I want to live in. This is the world I want to live in.
This woman? With this
Well,
woman?
that too.
Wild. That is beautiful. And it speaks exactly to you, right? It's like you care about craftsmanship and beauty and design and yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, what would be the equivalent for like a podcast? Because here's the thing. I'm posting to these platforms, and so I kind of got to be on them. That's like a really tricky thing.
No, it's a really tough part about being on the internet and being a creator is what is your relationship with the internet itself? Because you don't want to be scrolling all day. And here's the other thing. So my friend, the cultural tutor, he doesn't read any books written in the last 50 years. And he's just great to be around because the way that he sees the world is so different. And that is the other thing. Like maybe the right answer is to just kind of surrender to, I'm going to have way less of a sense of what's going on with this creator and that creator. And I'm going to be more tied to more timeless things and stuff like that. Like one of my New Year's resolutions for this year is just to watch more movies. Like movies are kind of underrated. They're beautifully presented, and all of them is its own aesthetic experience, its own story that you can get in a few hours. But that's increasingly my answer, is to just try to spend less time on the internet. But
yeah,
it's got a pretty strong tug, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it does. I think everyone needs to have measures in place. You can't just wing it. You can't just be like, oh, I'm not going to do that today. You will lose the willpower game. You will just lose it. There's some, like, I have apps installed, right? Like Opal or Freedom.to. If those are not installed, it's just a matter of time.
And how do you use them?
So there's all day, with Opal, there's inconvenience. It's just like it takes me a few seconds to unblock a website or like an app, I should say. So I can't go on YouTube, I can't go on Spotify or anything unless I'm like...
Why no Spotify?
Because it's easy for me to just plug something in and just like listen to something in the background while I'm wanting to focus, right? And so I would rather sometimes sit down and just journal than, let me just listen to something and just consume. I think silence is good. Like having silence every once in a while. Like I'm sure that's what you're doing when you're walking. Maybe you listen to podcasts too, but like, I think just increasing having silent periods for just thoughts to bubble up and things to synthesize. Any other tools that you use to just stay focused?
One of the big ones is just put your phone as far away from you as you possibly can.
Yeah.
But no, it's a battle. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I have this figured out. That's why I'm asking the questions. I would love to know what other people do. But that's why I get excited about this future.
Yeah, I think there's going to be more products like this. And I hope that I.O. Sam Altman and Johnny Iver, like I hope that they are creating a product that doesn't have the invasiveness of ads of this, and
it shouldn't be this hard. We bought the dang iPhone. It should work for us.
yeah,
We shouldn't be at war with it.
yeah, and then it's really just the social media platforms on it,
Yeah.
that are pulling our attention. So, but it's because that's the business. It's like the business is attention. So, and I think the AI products that they're creating, they're gonna make enough money. They're not gonna need like, oh, let's also have a huge like ad space and everything, like, because as soon as there's somebody else who's creating a product without all the ads and all that stuff, like people will gravitate towards that. Maybe not all of them, but it'd be good to have a choice for people like us.
Yeah, I wish enough money was a thing, but it's not. I don't think I've
As
never
I was
seen
saying it,
I've never really seen anyone make like enough, because the problem is the companies go public.
Steve Jobs. I think he was someone like that. I think he truly just cared about the product, and he was like that. This is one of his lines. He was like, he I don't think it was a line, but he would never sell Apple. You couldn't pay him $100 trillion. It'd be like, and then what would I do? I would just make another product again. Like he just lived to make a product. I also think the problem is there's product people and then there's marketing people. Marketers ruin everything. Product people are the ones who care about craftsmanship and let me actually make something that has utility and like solves a problem or it's just amazing to use. And then the marketers are like, oh, I got the attention, right? So,
Well, okay. Can you look up first? Do Apple stock? I'm gonna go to that second, and then do the iPod commercial from like 2004, and just get those photos up. Because I don't agree about the marketers ruining everything. Yeah. So remember these commercials,
Oh yeah.
right? Okay. You hear that? Oh yeah. That was a happy. Oh yeah. That was a joyous. Oh yeah.
Brings you back, bro.
Well, not all marketers.
Right. But
The Apple is a product company. It's not a marketing company.
I think it's both.
No,
I think it's both. I mean, every
It
Wednesday.
is, but it's product first.
Well, I do think it's both. Like it, at least maybe now, who knows? But Steve Jobs, I think it was every Wednesday morning, he had a 3-hour meeting with the marketing team. If you are CEO and you do a 3-hour weekly meeting, that means you care about that thing. And here's the thing. I think that Apple products, the product itself, you can't divorce from the marketing. They were together. Like, part of what I loved about having my iPod was that I could put myself into this ad, and I felt what these people feel, and I felt that with so many Apple ads. Now, go to the Apple stock tab on the right. This is what I think it is. It's something, and then go to Max so that we can see the whole thing. This is the question that I like to ask people. So Max, kind of just right of 5 years. Go up.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So Steve Jobs died, I think it was 2012. And what was the stock at? It was at, something like 15, and now it's at 196. So it's up, 13, 14%. It's a $2.93 trillion company. And now here's the thing. Tim Cook, according to this chart, has done an absolutely phenomenal job. Like, phenomenal job of being a successor. And yet, it feels like Apple's a fraction of its former self. Apple has knocked it out of the park with supply chains and quality control, and that's what Tim Cook does really well. But
He's no
I don't
Steve
know,
Jobs.
Apple doesn't inspire us anymore. And so I do think that as much as the capitalists love to talk about, hey, I love capitalism, and so do I. Like, I'm not anti-capitalist at all. But there are trade-offs, okay? There are trade-offs between maximizing shareholder value and building a company that is as good for the world as possible.
And I think Steve Jobs also was a great storyteller. Even like when he showed the iPod for the first time, the way he pulled it out of his pocket. He's like, you have a lap. Like, you see how you just... This is exactly how I felt about that commercial. Dude, there was something so beautiful. I'm like, this man literally just sold it without saying anything.
Yeah.
He pulled it out. And he was like, this is it.
Let me rephrase it. I think I didn't communicate it clearly. I think even the marketing is part of the product.
Yeah.
It's part of the experience. It's part of like the optimization is like, let's make something great. And the ads were like, this ad is great. Instead of going, well, how's it performing? Are we like, what are we getting from it? And so I think it's maybe it's not a battle between product and marketing, but it's a battle between people who are making something great versus people who are trying to extract as much as possible.
Totally. And,
Right.
and I'll build on that. I mean, to build on your idea, like, yeah, sometimes there's people who build a product and they're incentivized to, you know, do this thing or that. And then you have the marketers who their whole incentive is to just get the product to sell. And then they start hijacking people's brains. They know all these little tricks of like human behavior. Then you get these like super scammy direct response marketers. And then all of a sudden it becomes driven by those people. And it's like, whatever. We don't really care about the product. We're just going to like nail the marketing. And then that happens all the time. That happens all the time. It doesn't need to happen. And I think it's really important for us to have companies in the world like an Apple in 2008 and 2009, where we can look at these companies that really synthesize marketing and product, and you can see them come together. You know what company did a great job? Type in Virgin Atlantic. Dude. Virgin Atlantic. Not super cool like it used to be. I took a flight on Virgin Atlantic recently to sort of feel the experience. No, but type in like Virgin Atlantic, like 1990s or something vibe, you know? Like...
Richard Branson is my favorite billionaire.
He's so cool, right?
Yeah.
And like, look at that. You know, you had the plane, you had sort of the woman on the front, you had that bright red. If you look at that ad kind of on the bottom, it's like, man, yeah, let's go travel the world and all that. You have the stewardess in the bright red. And this is a company that you could say is actually more marketing than product. The product is the marketing. And yet you get on, you're like, hell yeah, we're going to go take Virgin Atlantic. Like, this is going to be a cool experience where you're going to step into another world.
I guess it's got to be marketing that adds to the product and then it becomes part of the product.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it infuses the product with soul
Yeah.
and vitality.
And I think that's why Steve Jobs made sure to be in the meetings. Because like he's just like, let's make sure we have that in there.
Well, look how powerful the marketing is. I'll never forget the first time I took a Virgin Atlantic flight. I think I was 9 years old, and I'll never forget. I'm happy you brought this up. I remember it being the first flight with an actual TV in front of the thing, and I was like, it was like a long flight from, I think America. It was like Boston to like Morocco, and I was just best flight of my life, and I still remember it to this day. I forgot it until you brought it up, but it had the new movies, had everything, and I'm just like, I want to get on every Virgin Atlantic flight. I don't want to go on American anymore. I don't want to go on Delta. Forget about all of them. And it's crazy because
I think that was Virgin America. Virgin America or Virgin Atlantic?
well, it was is there a difference?
Yeah. So Virgin America was based in San Francisco.
Okay.
And then they were bought. This is what I think you're talking about. So they had this beautiful mood lighting. And the reason I have the same experience is because they're based in America, the first hometown airline. And they had the TVs, and then they were bought by Alaska. And to say the least, it ain't Virgin America anymore.
It's not. But you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. I had that same feeling. You get on, it was a glorious
First time,
experience.
you were like, holy crap, these flights don't have to suck anymore.
Yeah.
And I can be engaged, and it wasn't like these, it was just like great. And it's crazy because like literally 9 years old, but I still have that feeling. And that's, again, this is like where marketing, like, well, I'm like 30 now, and it's like 21 years, and you still have that core memory from a freaking flight.
Yeah, unfortunately, this has actually fallen out of favor a bit. And the reason is that what happened was once we got Facebook ads, marketing became a lot more about numbers and revenue optimization. And there was so much edge there.
It's direct response.
Right.
The difference between brand marketing and direct response marketing.
And brand marketing hasn't had the best 15 years compared to... you think of a show like Mad Men and just that whole age, or in magazine like Vogue was all brand marketing. And I hope that we get back to a kind of brand marketing era, because brand marketing is the stuff that I think adds a lot of flavor to life. Rory Sutherland has this great bit where he talks about he calls them like psychological innovations, where he basically says that there's all of these ways to improve life that are against the engineering mindset. So he has the bit of, You know, say that you're taking a train from London to Paris. How do you improve the train? Say it takes, 2.5 hours. Well, obviously you make it go faster. And say that in order to make it go from 2.5 hours to 2 hours, you have to invest $100 billion. Okay. And his punchline is, he says, or you could have beautiful supermodels walking down the aisles back and forth, serving champagne, and people would be asking for the train to go slower, and it would cost you a fraction of the price. And so marketing can like tap into all of these psychological levers in a way that actually is way cheaper than the kind of engineering innovation. But somehow as a society, we've lost faith in that.
That's actually wild. That makes so much sense.
Yeah,
it's like, look at any car that's like crazy expensive. It's still going to get you from A to B. There's still a limit. You can only go 60 miles per hour, but it goes faster, and it comes with all this status and the story behind it and what it means, the meaning. That's like so much of it.
So much of it. What marketing is doing is infusing meaning into objects and experiences.
Dude, even old Disney. You remember Disney Channel when they used to have the glow stick, and they used to create the little Mickey Mouse headline? That was like a staple of like, I remember I saw like a reel randomly, and I saw the Mickey Mouse thing with the glow stick.
Or like type in Tinkerbell Disneyland logo. Like you look at this and you have, here, you got Tinkerbell, and she's, taking Disneyland. Go to the blue. This one, the Disney pictures, right? So what do you have right here? So what you have right here is Tinkerbell is basically drawing that around the Sleeping Beauty castle. And then what happens? The fireworks go. Okay. Yeah. And then when you go to Disneyland, what do you think? I got to see the fireworks. I got to see the fireworks of the Sleeping Beauty castle. So like it's like incepted into your brain that becomes part of the experience. And then the fireworks are better fireworks because now you're living the image that you've already seen. Yeah. That's great marketing.
This podcast episode has become like a walk down memory lane. We're all living our childhood right here.
I love it.
But like that's profound to me that like we get such smiles from marketers. And now we think of marketers, we think, evil, scammy copywriters, evil, just trying to get a quick buck. Marketing doesn't need to be like that at all.
Yeah, but I think it really is the separation between direct response and branding. Because branding adds to the product. It is the product. Whereas direct response is the taking. It's like, I need this many people to click and respond and buy like now.
Yeah, so if this ad's not doing well, I'm changing it so that you don't actually let it build into like what the ad's supposed to quote unquote do.
Yeah. It's also the difference between realism and just like it's only real if I can touch it versus like there's some things we can't see, but it's there. And so when you have a marketing campaign like this, you can't look at the P&L sheet and be like, we invested this much in marketing and it resulted in that much.
Yeah, I forget who it was. Somebody said only 50% of marketing works. The problem is we don't know which half.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, 100%. And so with direct response, they're like, these brand marketers are so dumb. They're spending all this money. They don't even know where it goes. Meanwhile, the branding people, it's like, do you see the parallel between like realists and then people who are like, they believe in mysticism and something like a soul, where it's like, the soul people, like they're so dumb. Like you just believe in this random stuff that you can't even prove. It's the same thing with branding and direct response, where the direct response people are like, you don't even know the ROI that you're getting and if it's even working, but it's like, but look at it.
Branding
like,
is so much better.
Look at our faces, the way we light up when we think about, the first Virgin Atlantic flight, the ad, the iPod ad.
Well, I mean, think about it. Kylie Jenner built $1 billion cosmetic company off her brand. Literally. It's not marketing. She didn't use direct response. She literally is just the brand herself. The reality is branding at the end of the day always works. I mean, it always wins over direct response. And then if you add branding and the direct response.
Yeah, good branding.
Then it's lethal.
Yeah, 100%. And it's the same thing with YouTube as well.
I always feel like such an idiot though when I talk to a direct response person, because they'll be like, do this, do this, do this. And I'm like, you're totally right. Like what I love about the direct response people is, because the problem is direct response is the kind of thing that if you take, a lot of things are like this. A lot of things are like this. If you're at like 30% on the dial and you tweak the dial to like 70 or 80, good stuff happens. But then if you tweak the dial from 80 to 100, really bad stuff happens.
That's with AI too.
That's with so many things in life. Yeah. So many things. It's sort of like, when you're building IKEA furniture, you actually don't want the screws to be 100% tight.
Yeah.
You want the screws to be like 95, because then there's some wiggle room, right? Like if you look at a bridge, what makes a bridge sustainable? It has to be able to swing, right? And a lot of times, once you try to squeeze every single piece of juice out of the fruit, you actually ruin it. You completely ruin it. Whereas when things are pretty optimized, they just get better.
Interesting. Where are some other commonalities, like in life or business or?
I mean, I think this is completely true with optimization culture, right?
Oh, yeah,
like optimization culture, hey, you try to be a little bit more productive, learn a little bit thing here, learn a bit there. Man, sleep better. I mean, who doesn't want to sleep better, right? Like, okay, hey, maybe you should put down the window shades, get the room of the temperature, temperature of the room right, wear some sleep mask. I always wear a sleep mask. Great. But then you end up with the guy who it's 9:30, you're hanging out with everyone and you're with your boys, and like everyone's going around. It's like, number 2 whiskey glass. And it's like, hell yeah, last night at bachelor party and stuff. And it's just like an absolute time, total vibe. And then there's the guy who's just like, won't drink there and then has to go to sleep at 9:30 so that he can be up at 6 to kind of keep his circadian rhythm. And then kind of wake up the next morning and you're kind of feeling groggy, but you've had an absolute bender with your boys till like 2 a.m. And it's like, you're not doing that much, but that is like an anti-optimization thing. And I think it's important that we're not so optimized that we miss out on some of those great nights. But then at the same time, I'm not sitting here at all saying that we should be drinking all the time, that we should be up till 2 a.m. all the time. Like
80%.
Life is a lot more subtle, It's like life is art. And it's like listen to music, every day kind of has its own flow and you kind of got to roll with that. And that's the problem with 100% optimization.
I love that. You picked, I think, the perfect example of like, if you go to 100%, it actually ruins your life. It doesn't optimize it. It's just so you miss out on so much.
I mean, the point of life isn't to have good Oura Ring scores.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
And yet I wear an Oura Ring. You know what I mean? Like both of those things can be true. I'm not wearing it right now, but both of those things can be true.
Yeah, but you get it 90% there. Yeah. And I think one of the common regrets of people is, I think a lot of these type A optimized achievers, they do this because I don't want to regret not having achieved my goals. But then when you look at the top 5 regrets of the dying, it's, I wish I wouldn't have worked so much. And there's like stories of these billionaires who, they write in their biography. I can't remember the one, but I listened to it on the Founders podcast, where this guy's like, yeah, everything I did was I worked, and I don't even know my kids really. And I think that's oftentimes a bigger regret of people.
Yeah. The thing is, we live in such an optimization world. We've been talking about direct response. We've been talking about the architecture. And then I work with sort of my creative right hand. His name is Tommy Lee. Genius guy. And he said something so interesting to me. He said, isn't it interesting that in the 2010s, kind of the defining YouTubers, Casey Neistat, and now it's MrBeast.
Yeah.
And
yeah. You said that.
Yeah. I tweeted it. And, Casey Neistat's a filmmaker. He really has his own style. He's sort of delightfully unoptimized.
He doesn't look at analytics.
Yeah. And like I watched Casey Neistat's videos. I probably watched 300 of them in a row. I love those videos. And now MrBeast is like, spent some time with him, and he is so knowledgeable about YouTube. It's just unbelievable. He knows the YouTube algorithm better than the people at YouTube does, and is really good at thinking through ideas and stuff like that. But he represents a culture of the 2020s in a way that someone like Casey Neistat just wouldn't come up now, because everything has gotten so data-driven and optimized. Everything. And I think that you were asking me earlier about like the culture. I think that there's a deep unspoken rebellion. There's a lion inside of us that is waiting to get out, the kind of anti-optimization. And I don't know where that's going to go, but it shows up all over the place. And
Yeah.
it doesn't bring a sense of joy and satisfaction.
Well, I think even this podcast is a rebellion against that. Like, I went in and I was like, I want to do a self-improvement podcast that's just fun. And I'm not bringing on anyone who, you know, they have a book or a course or they're an expert in something where like they come in on here because they want to push it. They're currently doing the tour. I don't want that. And chances are we're not even going to talk about the thing that makes you that much. Let's talk about architecture. Let's talk about AI. And so, yeah, it's like, because it's like a pushback against the like self-improvement that takes itself so seriously. And I'm like, I don't want to be associated with that. So yeah, I think that's a interesting way to think about where things are going, because pendulums are always swinging, right? And if it goes to the over-optimized, I think it now swings back into authenticity and into, yeah, just like things not being optimized. I think people will really enjoy that moving forward in the future.
Yeah.
Interesting update. Talking about MrBeast. Have you heard about this? MrBeast is writing
way.
a new thriller novel with author James Patterson.
Dude, this is this is probably the biggest thing I learned from spending time with MrBeast is he's so good at thinking about big ideas.
Yeah.
Like, he finds the best guy.
I think the best guy found him in this example.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah. Because he's like, I'm excited to work with James Patterson, the GOAT of thrillers. We've been cooking a really unique story together, and I can't wait to see your reactions. It's been fun. And then in reply, James Patterson...
No. Low-key surprised. He came up with it. Low-key surprised he was down to work with me.
Oh, okay. My assumption was but actually you're right. Probably it was his idea, yeah.
MrBeast is really good at thinking through things like this. He's really good about finding... MrBeast is amazing at finding the person. And like, I think this is a real skill. You know, so often we talk about, oh, you need to know all of these things. No, so often it's actually just, you just need to find the person who, if you connect with that person, they will just take you so far.
Yeah.
And no, don't get me wrong. MrBeast is MrBeast. So it's way easier for him to find that person, for that person to be down. But also, this just shows up in really basic things. Like, who's your tailor going to be? You know, who's the friend that you know who will know like a good tailor? And just having a sense of your different friends. Oh, yeah, that person asked about the tailor and like where to buy good used furniture.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be the person who you call when you have a marketing problem. You know what I mean?
I talked about this with Sean. I think that's one of Jimmy's key skills is hiring. It's just identifying, not hiring in the sense that like, and this is pushback from Sean, who was like, yeah, but he doesn't retain talent. Like they just like, they run through people until they find someone that sticks. But he's really good at just finding, okay, who's the guy, who's a talent, who is...
That's what he's really good at.
Yeah.
He's really good at finding the best person to learn from in anything, and then increasingly good at finding the best person or institution company to partner with. Really good at it.
Yeah. And so James Patterson, 160 plus novels, 300 million copies sold, 144 New York Times bestsellers.
That's insane.
Yeah, I want to get him on the pod.
That guy's a savage. Like he's the MrBeast of writing.
Dude, insane numbers. Yeah, I just interviewed this guy named Dean Koontz, who I think's written 120 novels and probably made a similar amount of money, actually.
Yeah. Wow. That is so rare to make that much money as a writer.
Yeah, well, this is the market that you do it in. You do it in thrillers, you do it in romance.
Yes.
Like Danielle Steele's written a bunch of books.
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, well, J.K. Rowling's different. She wrote one, one series that just, it's probably the biggest one in who knows, maybe ever. Who knows how long.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think...
Remember when people used to stand outside the bookstore?
Yeah.
The night before, the goblet of fire would come out and people would wait out there. And then they'd be like, oh, I'm going to get my book and then I'm going to stay up all night reading it. They wouldn't go to sleep till they finished it.
Crazy.
Man, do we have, what do we have like that now?
Well, we're all waiting for the final Game of Thrones book, right? But even those, I didn't read. So who am I to talk?
Yeah.
I watched the series. I started reading it and I was like, Nah, I already watched the series.
And for what it's worth, no one has mentioned to me. I can't wait for the final Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that
The
doesn't-
one thing, in-person thing that has really gone up is the prices of live sports tickets. I cannot believe it. Type in prices for the NBA Finals. It is crazy. So when my dad and I went to the World Series in 2004, it was either 2002 or 2004, Giants versus Angels. Average ticket price $4,150. Okay.
What?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy. My
Average?
dad and I went average. My dad and I went, I think, with $500 in our hands, and we scalped tickets, went to the game. Okay. And now we've basically had, I would say that demand for the NBA Finals is roughly the same as Major League Baseball. We've basically had a 9x increase in tickets for the finals. And like, if there's a place where I see like real inflation plus like major increasing demand, it's just the prices of live sports tickets. I mean, I go to New York and look at like the prices of Knicks tickets or like Rangers hockey tickets, Yankees tickets. They're so expensive. And all this is to say that I think that there's something about how much of our lives is on our phones that live sports has taken on a new kind of gravitas.
100%.
anything, I guess, any live experiences I could imagine.
Look at the Taylor Swift tour, the Eras tour.
Oh my God.
She made $1 trillion. You know what I mean? She could probably afford like 17 private jets now just from doing this tour, and it was incredible. Like people would fly. Like I think it was flying from like New Orleans back, and there were so many Swifties on my flight after she had just done the show there.
Do you guys know any Taylor Swift fans personally?
So many.
So many.
You do?
Yeah,
so many, dude.
I can't think of.
I know
Dude,
so many.
I literally went to.
But like the kind that would fly to a concert and be like,
So many.
I went to the club, and I didn't. I went to the club with my friends, and we were just going out. We went during Taylor Swift night, and it was the DJ specifically came to play only Taylor Swift songs. I shit you not. These people, it's a cult. Like it's insane. Like two girls, I was just sitting down, we were trying to talk. Literally, they were like, "Oh my God, I met Taylor Swift in middle school. Tell her story. Tell her story." I'm like sitting here, I'm like, "What is?" She was like, "She came and spoke in my class, and it like changed my life." And I'm like, and I'm going along with it, but I'm like, I can't believe you're really serious about this. Like you're genuinely telling me about the story about how you met Taylor. These are like 40-year-old women, 30-year-old women, like that literally saw her when they were younger, and she completely transformed their life. And you can see this like, it's like this insane look in their eyes where it's just like they worship her. She's not just Taylor Swift. She's like a god in their eyes. And the people singing, there were people crying it's a freaking club. This is not, you're not watching Taylor Swift. You have a screen with her and it's the DJ's playing her songs and people are crying because it connected to their soul when they were in high school, when they were in middle school. It's insane. Like, I don't know how your friends are. My friends are like, some of my friends, they're diehard. Like, you say something about Taylor Swift, I'm like, I don't even know why we're friends. Like, you can't be this obsessed with her. But.
My experience exactly.
Okay, high five.
My experience exactly.
Dude, it's crazy.
wow.
Yeah.
We got to be like Taylor Swift.
I mean,
I think you can't even plan for that, right? Like I think she.
but it, like
She
it's
capitalized on
she's
it, but-
type in the "Welcome to New York" video,
Dude,
tour video.
World Cup tickets for just regular, it's like goes from 6,000 to like.
Exactly.
Insane.
I think it really speaks to something deep in our modern world. I mean, yeah, turn on the sound.
I don't know if we can play that.
Okay. What, it's illegal to play Taylor Swift on this pod?
Exactly.
Copyright.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she
You
comes
can
on.
maybe sing it while I play it.
So
Alright,
this
go.
is basically the beginning of one of her. Also, look at those view stats on the right. She's got 20 million views on this, and it's below her YouTube average.
Wow. It's like this is a 10 out of 10 video right here.
So-
in YouTube terms, that's a bad thing.
So actually, this is the lyric video, but there's another "Welcome to New York" video where it's her performing, and it's the opening to one of her concerts, and everyone's got these lights and stuff like that. It's just, she's a great performer. Yeah, this is it, I think.
Wow. Yeah, and she probably also has the best people behind her, you know? Like she found the best people that are like building this with her.
Jeez.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah, I think something like that you can't even plan. I think she hit the right thing at the right time with the right demographic, and she's the right person for it, and then she's just capitalizing on it like crazy, like maximizing it.
Well, she related to all these girls when she was growing up. Imagine like a teenage, like young blonde girl, like going through it, having insecurities, having anxiety. All of her songs were about just how to grow up as a teenage girl.
Yeah.
And like every girl could relate. It wasn't just like a specific, like every single girl that heard her, but like, I feel so connected to you.
Yeah. And now the songs are all about, I can't find a man, or I can't have a healthy relationship. Like, what is it about?
Dude, but think about it. The old people are like Ariana Grande, Selena Gomez. They're all part of Disney or like Nickelodeon. These are all like the big stars because like all the kids that grew up watching technology, they grew up watching these individuals, and these individuals became their heroes in a sense. And now, I mean, taking it to the next level, look where we're at.
Give me, what are some, 5 more. Okay, laser. What are some unconventional books that most people haven't heard of where you're like, you got to read this?
Yeah. So I would... Actually, the biggest one, unconventional book that most people haven't read, you got to read this, is obviously the Bible. It's obviously the Bible.
Okay.
The Bible has...
I think a lot of people have heard of that one.
Well, hold on. I want to give the pitch. And the reason is I'm not making a religious pitch here, okay?
Okay.
I'm making a pitch of the Bible is infused into our lives more than people realize and understand. And I think that very core to just being an educated person who understands Western civilization well, you have to have read the Bible. You know, take something like the Declaration of Independence. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. That's not self-evident at all. Like the next line says, we are endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights. And you see so much of law, so much of culture. I mean, anything that was written before the beginning of the 19th century, people just assumed universal knowledge of the scriptures. Same with things that were painted. And now we live in this world where people don't know what the Bible says, but it is if you live in the West, it is the book that has influenced your life more than any other book. And people are proud to have not read it.
Isn't there a non-religious version of the Bible? Like, isn't there something like, what was it like?
Yeah. But read the religious one. Like just read like the ESV translation and just pick it up and just read it. Like it's worth knowing what it says, whether you agree with it or not. Like when you watch a movie, when you look at, try going to the Louvre and not being familiar with the story of Genesis. Like so much of what you'll see there is downstream of that. And I find it strange that so many people binge read the biographies of John D. Rockefeller, Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, and those same people are proud to have not read the Bible. And that's why that's my big recommendation.
Interesting. I've never read it. I'm not proud of it, but yeah, you're kind of you're like enrolling me into it.
It's the core book. It's the core book. It's the core book of the West.
It's the number one bestseller.
Yeah,
it stood the test of time like crazy.
It stood the test of time. It defines how we think about law and morality. I mean, it's all downstream of the Old New Testament.
Did you read it before 2017 or when you met that Christian guy that convinced you to do it? Because was there a time that you were that guy?
100%. Yeah. And I'm upset with being that guy. I was that guy for a long time. I mean, I made it through college without ever reading it. So like, I feel like if you get a bachelor's degree, you should have like a general sense of what the Bible says. And it was never something that we focused on in school. Just very strange that I was never pushed to read the Old and New Testament.
I love that.
Any other standout books?
Yeah, I have a few. So here's the thing. I don't want to give book recommendations for everybody, but if you're interested in art and culture and some of the things that we've spoken about on this podcast, there's a few that I recommend. There's a book called Understanding Media by Marshall McLuhan, came out in like 1963 or something. Really good at showing you how the different forms of media are interrelated, and will show you how technology and art are actually pulling from the same thread rather than being separate. Wonderful book. The Story of Art by E.H. Gombrich is really good. And then if you're more interested in watching something, there's a documentary called Shock of the New that is so good. It's like a 10-part documentary, 1 hour. And it just completely changed my perspective on the world. And my final one is Why Beauty Matters by Roger Scruton. Just really good. I don't think that one's on YouTube. I think you have to find it on Vimeo. And you might have to find some sort of janky link or something. But if you can find it, Why Beauty Matters by Roger Scruton. There's another thing called Why Beauty Matters by a guy named Dana Gioia. And on the vein of this podcast of how aesthetics and culture kind of weave together, and people think of art as like this superfluous thing. Like, oh, art is just going to be this like side quest of our lives. And maybe if we have enough time, we can focus on art. But like, think of the Egyptians. Think of the Greeks. Think of the Romans. Think of the Victorians. What do we remember from them? We look at the things that they made, the paintings that they painted, the buildings that they built, the poetry that they wrote. Art's not a side quest. Art is the core of our civilization.
It's the main quest.
It's the main quest. Everything else. What are we doing here? Like when people have free time, what do? They consume art. They watch movies.
Yeah.
They listen to music. Hopefully don't get sucked into social media. That's actually part of the tragedy of social media is it's less rooted in art.
It's not art, yeah.
It's not art.
Depends on what you consume, but yeah.
It's the main quest. And
the most XP.
Yeah. And so those are my recommendations in terms of beginning to understand how all these things fit together.
Wow. I love that. I'll put all these links down below. Thank you for being on. This was great.
That was a trip.
Yeah, you liked it?
That was a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Nice.
That was cool.
Awesome.
That was fun.
All right. See you next week.